The 3-part audio series doesn't promote anything. It's just my story and then 2 of those breakthrough sessions. And then underneath that in the show notes is like, oh, your next step would be to fill out this application. But the CTAs aren't cohesive for me as far as like where we should be leading people.
I think we can make a more direct invitation to go there. You can do that in one of 3 ways.
Welcome, everybody, to another Launch Your Private podcast episode. We have another coaching call, and in the hot seat is Marisa Liza Pell. She is a transformational mentor. She's going to share with us a little bit about her business and what she's doing. She has something very top of mind, which is going to be fun to talk about. She's going to use private podcast an event that is literally tomorrow. And then we're also probably going to talk about how she's using it in her memberships and her programs, I should say, as a way to connect with her members and provide content. So a lot to dive into today. Marisa, thank you for coming. And yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Cool. So Marisa, tell us a little bit about what you do. You transform people. How we do it.
I've been in business over 2 decades. So I started
another pro. Cool.
Yeah, long time. I started in major market radio 25 years ago, doing intuitive, actually predicting sporting events for like the NFL and the NBA.
Oh, so cool.
Like on major market Philadelphia, like locker room radio. That's a whole other story. So
I love that though.
My career didn't start in funnels, digital marketing, or coaching. It started on the other end in the media, doing television, radio. And then I was pretty much an intuitive business strategist and a medium for 25 years, doing lots of large live touring and events. And then the pandemic hit. And then a lot of things shut down. So I started building, courses on intuition and actually live streaming and just entertaining people throughout the pandemic. And I was like, wow, I got into the funnel bug and got into, because I love tech. And I just started getting into this funnel thing. And then it kind of took over my life about going into funnels and digital marketing and everything. Yeah. That's when I started to pivot the business and realized that I was having my own transformational personal breakthroughs and watching my clients be very successful at their businesses, but not so successful in some other areas of their life and playing out patterns. So I would advise celebrities and people that were very successful in certain areas of their life, but not others. And they were playing out patterns. So I realized that predicting their life was just predicting their patterns. They weren't changing and they couldn't have breakthroughs. So there was a lot of basically breaking the cycle and breaking the patterns. And I saw this actually in my own life. At the height of my success, my personal life was a mess. So I was like, wait, there's like an element that I'm missing here. I could predict, I could throw the 100-mile-an-hour fastball and predict things with great accuracy, but actually it was just leading them. Like they're like, oh, wow, yeah, I did get engaged to Dave in May and he wore crocodile shoes. Oh my God, this is amazing. But then a year later, they're like, oh, it went to ashes just like every other relationship. So I was like, wait a second. Some of my most successful, beautiful, lovely women who were like winning in their businesses, certain areas of the life, they were like really not winning in these areas. So then I asked the universe again for the second time in 20 years, like, I need to help people break these patterns. And so then I started the journey of my own personal breakthrough with adding somatic healing, nervous system work, and adding science and spirituality and blending them together in a format, and completely shut down my business for 4 months. And on faith, recreated a 12-month high ticket program for a lot of my clients who 2 decades couldn't solve these patterns. And so they were stuck in survival energy for a really long time, very much the strength for everyone else, not prioritizing themselves. And I wanted to see what would happen. And I was downloading. So I'm in 2 different areas, like I'm in science and spirituality. So I channeled this whole method, and within 2 weeks, people were getting results that I couldn't get them in 20 years. And so it became a passion project. And then now it's in its 3rd year. And here we are. So I kind of rebranded and went into the area of soul alignment and transformation. And as soon as I built a new website, put it out into the world, I got a call that said, hey, will you come and do this show like you used to do like a few, years ago in a theater? And I was like, okay, so this is an opportunity for me to take what I used to do and actually bring in another element and evolve the show and kind of blend earth to heaven and heaven on earth together. So we're going to see how that works tomorrow. But what I didn't do when I was in like having radio stations promote me and everybody do my marketing is I made a big mistake for 2 decades. I didn't know about list building. So I would just not ever, they would just do the thing. I'd show up and I had tons of clients. I didn't ever have to market on a wait list for years. But then when I moved into this area of, about the whole list building, I was like, wow, if I just collected emails throughout the years, my list would have been really big. This one, right? We decided to print out some cards with QR codes, and the new website now has a 3-part audio series opt-in with Hello Audio. And we have a bunch of products and places where people can go. Obviously, we want people to go into the breakthrough program, but if they can't do that and they don't have the time, resources, or it's just not the right thing for them, we have different, starting points for them. So we are a little bit confused we're pretty much throwing darts at the dartboard as far as like, oh, you could join this free school group, or you can come and join our low ticket membership. Oh, you can fill out an application for high ticket. And it's like, where are we going with this opt-in? What's the purpose of it? And what's the journey we want to lead people to? And instead of like just all over the place and seeing what happens. So that's where we are. I don't know if that's a good overview or just confuse y'all, but
no, it's good. I love it. I love the background.
Yeah. It's awesome. I'm excited. I've always wanted to go to an event like this, so I'm so excited that you're doing this, and I think it's super cool. So I guess one question, that clarifying question I want to ask is for all the people who are going to this event and they're going to show up. So they're going to have the QR code takes them to the landing page to opt into the 3-part audio series. Is that how that works? Okay. And it's just going to be, that's just going to be promoted as a resource for everyone that's there. You're going to encourage them to grab that before they go.
We're actually having them sign up to do a giveaway at the end. Basically, for incentive, I don't do any one-to-one sessions anymore. I'm on a closed wait list. So for them to come and be like, oh, we're seeing her doing this as a group, but we can't get an appointment right now because I don't do it anymore. Somebody could win a one-to-one session, but we're going to do the drawing. So we have that, and we have a few other door prizes. One is 3 months of our low ticket membership. We're not sure what the third prize is yet, but people are getting that. But anyone who opts in is going to get, how to start activating their whole heaven on earth experience.
Okay.
So they're getting the audio series with the opt-in.
With the opt-in. Okay. I like that though.
That's awesome. And it's anyone at the event is going to be entered to win?
Anyone that signs up, like we're doing it right at the end, and we're like, hey, if you want to win, we're going to open up our like email provider and we're going to pick an email and you're going to win. So we're going to have like a few winners, but the grand prize is a one-to-one session.
The one-to-one. That makes sense to me. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. So this is going to be the big push of getting the list. Because how many people are anticipated attending this event?
Between 2 and 250.
Okay. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get all of them to join the list. But you're promoting the series outside of the event too.
The series is on our new website. When we rebranded, we decided it used to be an intuition quiz, which is on our old website, which still hasn't closed down yet. Okay. But it's like, what's your intuitive superpower? And that leads to like intuitive development courses. But this is more leading to our transformational soul alignment programs. So this is the Getting Unstuck audio series. And it's about people who feel like, they can't scale their businesses. Like they're stuck at a certain point. They're winning, but they can't really write that book, speak. They have a business, they're doing well, but their relationships are kind of not, and other areas are not. And they feel like they can win even bigger. So it's like people are at ceilings and we want to like get them unstuck. So I tell my story in the audio series, talk about how I want to help people. And we have a few of our mini coaching breakthrough sessions that are in our high ticket program. And those are like 2 of the other audios that are there. And then after that, we have a landing page, which goes right to application. So far, we haven't put a lot of people through this just because we've been so busy with everything that's going on that we haven't really promoted it that much. But I would like to have the flow a little bit like more specific direction because I'm all over the place with it and I'm not. We did have somebody join our high ticket program that actually went through the audio series, really resonated with it, saw a couple reels on Instagram, DM'd us, and now she's in a high ticket. So we are getting, even though it's a small number, we looked at the people that are listening to it, and they're either people that apply for high ticket, are in high ticket, or people that have purchased our lower ticket connected to the high ticket. So we know that we're actually attracting the right clients to it. We just don't have a lot of them right now listening.
Okay. So it sounds like the content
Yeah.
is working, which is
Yeah.
great. I mean, to
Yeah.
me, that tells me that the focus is just getting more eyeballs on it and in there and listening. So more ears listening to the content, which will hopefully lead to more conversion. So the step with the live event will hopefully help that. Now, one thing I will say is if people are showing up to the live event more for the medium aspect of it and they're not
Yes.
necessarily focused on that, you might see a dip in conversion percentages just because
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that they don't need it or that's not the audience. It just means that we started the conversation with them in one place and then we're like, oh, by the way, this is actually available to you. And they might listen to the content and say, actually, this is exactly what I need. But don't be discouraged if you don't get as high of a conversion rate as you have now, even with the smaller amount of people, just because they're showing up for maybe a different reason.
Exactly. And I think we found high percentages of people that have been clients for me that way first are kind of like 80-90% of the people who join this program. So we know that it's not a large amount, but we do know that's where we get people to come from. So what I forgot to tell you was that I do a monthly forecast that's free on YouTube and on Facebook every month. It's like our most popular content where I talk about the theme of the month energetically, and I talk about each key day of the month. And in our low ticket, we have a much deeper forecast that we give people, but we're inviting them. So once we have the event tomorrow, that goes off on the 1st of the month. We're inviting them to the live stream as another touch point on April 1st to go over like the monthly predictions and the monthly forecast. And then I weave in all this other stuff. So it kind of bridges the mediumship and the transformational work. This live broadcast, it would be of interest to them.
That's really cool. So I like the additional touch points. Yeah, that's always really good. Especially I would say in right now in this economy and this climate, I feel like we're seeing some folks, especially if they're not problem aware, and definitely if they're not solution aware, if there's something that they weren't already looking for, they're going to need some additional touch points likely on average just to make that decision, especially for high ticket. I think that's just kind of a given. But okay, so the role of private podcasts, talk to us a little bit about how we want to make sure that we're able to give you guidance that would most benefit your goals and ultimately what you want to achieve out of this. So it sounds like you're set. You've got the event, it's scheduled, you're going to show up. You're going to invite these folks into your private podcast, which is already converting well right now. You've got email sequences going out on the back end to them. You've got additional touch points. Where can we help the most when it comes to the role of private podcasts and helping you achieve some of these business metrics in your business?
I think it's the sequence following it is we have them going to like 5 different places in the email sequence. And I'm not sure which direction is the most appropriate or if we should not send them to all these places. I'll just kind of give an overview.
Yeah.
So we have them going to the event. Then we have a sequence before the sequence that most people get. So we have 3 emails after the event, thanking them, letting them know there's a live energy forecast 3 days later. We are also giving them, I have a big retreat coming up in May. So we're giving them $500 discount on the retreat for the next 7 days. So they're getting that in the email. And then after that, they're getting a reminder that the 7 days are up. Then they go into the Unstuck series emails that we have for everybody. So those emails go right to application. So the first 3 emails go right to high ticket application. And it'll be like, oh, check out episode 1. This is what episode 1, you guys have the email sequence. And then after that, it's like if people don't apply, then we have, so our high ticket program is a 6-step process. Our low ticket membership is the first step of that process. So we sometimes use that as a downsell if people graduate and want to stay connected to us, or they don't want to do the high ticket, they're not ready. So they go into step 1 where we nurture them into that. So then after the application emails, which are about 2 or 3 emails, then we actually have them go to our free school group to get a free course in there. And then the next couple emails are, oh, if you like this podcast, We have the Illuminate private podcast in our membership. This is what you'll get out of this podcast. And then the next 3 emails promotes the low ticket membership. And then the last email goes back to application. So it's a lot of places that people go. And that's where I feel like I need direction.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I don't know where to send them to like really send them properly, because I don't want somebody going in low ticket that's really meant for high ticket.
Yeah.
That would kind of, defeat the purpose of them like getting the exact full breakdown that they need.
Yeah.
I don't want them getting stuck in the free community and then not knowing that we have this available.
Yeah. There's definitely ways that you can do that. I guess, I don't know, Nora, if we're on the same page. Like, part of me is like, what is the goal of the event? Because focusing on one thing can also change potentially how the event feels. Like, if your goal is high ticket, like go high ticket and offer that. And then it doesn't mean they're not going to ever know about other stuff that you do. Like, people figure it out when they like you. You know what I mean? Like, people like click. And so I'm not saying remove all the CTAs and all the emails, but thinking about the flow of the event into a sequence and dancing the line between I do this and I also do this and I also do this is fine, but that's going to make the emails not convert as well because there's too many options, is like my initial response. Nora probably has something that's like more cohesive.
Okay, so I know we just got access to the doc, so I have not had time to read all of these. Typically, this is going to take me a little bit longer to go through this and understand the customer conversation flow. But I will say this, with what Lindsay is saying, my brain typically says if my main goal and my core offer is going to be the high ticket, then I'm going to start there and then use the other options as more of a downsell. So in terms of the sequencing of the other overall conversation, I'm going to start by talking about the benefits and, essentially promoting the high ticket program, knowing that that's not going to be for everyone. And I might actually allow people to opt out or to kind of start talking about the lower ticket option a little bit earlier. Because if they know it's not for them, I don't want to lose their attention, but I want to continue the conversation. And so I might check in with them and say, you've seen this probably in a couple different emails where they say especially if the programs are similarly built in the sense that we do it in different ways, and there's more access to you in a high ticket, there's more personalization, there's more high touch, so whatever that looks like. But the content, they're still really valuable on the low ticket. I might start talking about those themes and say we have 3 ways that you can work with me. And it might be 1, 2, 3, and it could be high ticket, low ticket, and then maybe even the retreat or what that's coming up. And so I think that's one way you could do it to allow people to self-select or hear more about it. But I think where I'm getting lost right now without a map, without actually seeing the conversation map, where this conversation is going. Because what I don't want to do is start talking about a bunch of different things and then confuse them or feel like the conversation is misaligned or not congruent with where we started it and where I want them to be. And so I would need time to analyze all the emails to see if that's what it was. But in terms of how I approach this, I always think of it as the customer conversation. So I'm talking to one person. If the person's going to be a good fit for high ticket, that's obviously where I want them to go. But if not, I need to give them a chance to continue the conversation. And I have to be cautious about the window of time where I move from high ticket to low ticket so that I don't lose their attention. And then similarly, if people are going to a retreat, now I will say this, or an event, right? It doesn't mean someone will actually go to an event and pay even a high ticket event and they won't join your high ticket program. They won't necessarily join your low ticket. They just want to go to the event, and that's fine too. So I think this is a balance of it's not necessarily sequential, although it could be, but to try to sequence 3 different offers is going to be a lengthy time period. And then do you lose attention in there? I always like to do promotional opt-outs too. I know we do this in our, when we do promotional series, it's like, if you don't want to hear any more about this promotion, just click here and we'll remove you from receiving any more promotional materials about this, but you won't be unsubscribed from the main list. So that's something I would do for this as well. But I would like to start with, where do you want people the most? either start there and then use other things as downsells, or reframe the email follow-up sequence so that they see all the options at once. And you have to be crystal clear about who each one is for so that they can kind of self-select and say, I think this would be a good fit for me. Let's explore and go down that path to see if that's good for me. I think that's usually, especially if I'm in a time-sensitive thing and I'm like, make a choice and it's not like a live launch and I have time to push this big thing and then do a downsell. And, this is like a month-long thing or maybe even like a 6-week thing. If I want to just get it out and say, I have your attention from this live event that you're doing, and here's the ways you can work with me, you might get higher conversions just by putting all options in a concise, clear, direct, compelling way that allows them to self-select. So that's the other way to think about it too.
Yeah. So the opt-in series it's not really a promote. It's like maybe 7 emails and it focuses on the episodes of the private podcast.
Good.
So
it should. That makes sense.
Just at the end of it, the first couple emails go directly to our application page where it's a free private training. So they go to a page saying like, accepted applicants that get this free private training. It's all about from scattered and surviving to joyful and thriving. And so they fill out a little 2-question form and then they automatically receive this private training, which goes into the program deliverables at the end. So that link at the bottom of those first couple of emails goes right to the private training page that they can get for free if they like that. With just this event that we're doing tomorrow, we will have 3 emails prior to putting them in the opt-in series, just because we want them to be able to have the coupon for the retreat. We want them to be able to listen to the series. And I'm not sure what else we have in there. But yeah, the retreat is kind of in May 2nd. So it's kind of like we have to fill that. Yeah, but I see what you're saying. There's a lot of things that I'm wondering, like, do we just take the free membership thing out and just have, I don't know. What you're saying is both ways sound great. I'm just wondering, I don't know. It's just a lot of, it's just like, for me, it feels like the sequence doesn't feel cohesive. I wrote the emails in a very cohesive manner. So it's a conversation that starts and ends like as a journey, but the CTAs aren't cohesive for me as far as like where we should be leading people if that's our goal.
Yeah. Let me ask this question. In the content of the audio series itself, do you only promote the high ticket or do you mention the other things?
So the 3-part audio series doesn't promote anything. It's just my story and then 2 of those breakthrough sessions. And then underneath that in the show notes is like, oh, your next step would be to fill out this application. So it just the show notes go directly to application. It's the emails that go to the CTAs, the other CTAs.
Okay. So the content itself doesn't talk about the program. It doesn't reference the show notes at all to tell them that it's there. Okay. No. So that's one way I think you could optimize the content of the private podcast, especially if you want people in there. Not that the other content, people are going there, it sounds like already, which is great. But I think we can make a more direct invitation to go there. And it could even be just not that you have to change anything you already have, but it could just be an additional short episode that says, what are the next steps. And it could be, want to continue working with me. You can do that in one of 3 ways. Most people will, apply for this program. It's blah, 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 right? Or we also have something else, or just stick with the high ticket and just say, this is, go there and apply and learn more about it. And then maybe in that same episode, throw a testimonial from someone who's been in that program or something in there too, just to promote it. I think you could even increase your conversions higher there. And then I would say, yeah, in terms of offer sequencing. So this is always a question of like, what offers, what timing? If you're looking at your business and you're thinking, okay, my profitability is the high ticket is where I want to, if I had 10 people and I gave you 10 customers today and I want all of them in high ticket, then I promote high ticket. And then if people don't convert in high ticket, then I look at where else can I put them? Because if they're still engaged after maybe not wanting to learn about high ticket, they could maybe be interested in some other offer. So I would probably sequence it that way by default. That to me, just knowing that we're going to lose some attention and there's going to be some fall off, and that's okay because as you might want to you can re-engage them in a different way. And I think that's okay. But I think I would sequence so high ticket, only high ticket. And if they don't convert, then I would expose them to the other offers and the other options that they have to work with you or to have access to you or to experience your training or coaching with that. That's probably what I would do.
So you're saying the whole sequence would be just high ticket?
Well, I mean, the delivery of it where you're going and you're making callbacks to the content in the private podcast, that feels right. And then, it looks like if you've got things in like the PS or, if you want to continue as they start to consume that sequence, that feels right to me. I think you could maybe make, depending on how this is laid out, after you are done with the episode content itself, you could make a more formal invitation. And, if you have any questions about this, hit reply and let me know. Or maybe one of those emails is more of an FAQ about the high ticket program because those emails have converted for me really well in the past too. So could be that. And then I would say there's got to be a natural, they have to make a decision. It's like yes or no. So is there any urgency or is there a cohort? Is there a deadline for a discount? What's the urgency for them to join the high ticket or apply for the high ticket? And then if they don't do that, then I would transition the conversation and say, it could be something like, we have other ways of working, but we've got to have a natural transition to that conversation so that we can acknowledge that they haven't applied yet or they've missed whatever that urgency kind of piece was. And now we can transition to give them other options of working with us. That feels more like a natural conversation. And then we can kind of go from there. So I don't really know how many emails you have for high ticket specifically in here, but I would say, all the content where you're pushing people back to the episodes, if the episodes are really focused on high content or high ticket, that makes sense to me. And then I do think it's maybe one or two more emails that are just specifically promoting the program itself, and then a transition into other options.
That feels a little bit better for me than promoting all my offers as a PS. Because then I feel like I've done that before in my newsletters and people just don't choose anything. But I like what you're saying about the deadline because we like people to apply before the third week of the month because we only onboard people like at the end of the month, starting the first of a month.
Yeah, they need to know
that. Yep. Yeah, so that's where and we do a deadline funnel and stuff like that. So I like that if they don't apply by the 7th or 8th email, because those are all about the episodes and the work and everything, then how do you see it transitioning? I guess the question I have is, would that be an indication because they didn't get the free training? Would that be an indication if they didn't apply that they're completely not interested and we should go for low ticket? Or how do you bridge that transition in the sequence? Once they hit the deadline, once the 7th email is done, then how do we bridge that to another call out?
Yeah, I think so. It depends. I would say it doesn't mean that they're not interested. It just means that maybe now's not the right time. Because are you promoting? So when you say apply, I mean, I know you're saying apply to get the free training, but most people, like, I will fill out an application to get a free training. Like, I know I wouldn't. But if I cared about the program, that's why I would fill out the application. It wouldn't be the free training for me that would do it. It was because I wanted to work with you. And so I think that if someone didn't do it, it could be that now's not the right time. They got busy, they got distracted, they missed the deadline. Fine. You could do a last call email and you could say, our next cohort is closing. If you haven't applied, make sure to do so. And then I would, let that go and then add value. I would start the conversation and talk about what matters to them. So I wouldn't send a promotional email at that one. The next email I'd send to them might just be talking about, might be story based, and it might be to really think about what they want. And then maybe in the PS, it could be like, did you know that we have this, whatever the low ticket offer is, and then kind of start introducing it to them. It could be that you more like newsletter feeling so that they're just staying connected, but there's it's like when people join and they're engaged and they're reading your email, the dream doesn't die, right? Like the problem doesn't go away by itself. So they're there and they're around in your ecosystem for a reason. And we just have to figure out how, if they're not interested in applying and going to high ticket, it doesn't mean that they still don't have a need or a problem that needs to be solved or a desire that they want to achieve. So it's about talking about that to re-engage that, like almost like a reminder of why you're here, and then presenting the next offer, which is, this lower ticket container, as another option for a solution for that. So I think for me, if I was writing the sequence, I would probably talk more about the dream or the desire or the problem, and it could be story based so that we're making even a deeper connection with you. And then I would introduce the lower ticket as an option, as kind of that downsell. I mean, I wouldn't call it a downsell to them, but that's how you're essentially positioning it, as like, obviously they weren't interested or it wasn't the right time for the high ticket, but maybe they would be interested in this next thing that you have too.
What I just realized, I forgot to tell you guys something. That all makes sense. There is a tripwire once people actually download the audio series. So there is a tripwire on the thank you page to our just a very low ticket entry point workshop, which is kind of step one. That's step one in the low ticket and step one in our high ticket. It's like an hour-long workshop. And so we're offering that 75% off, like $11. And then there's an order bump on there, but we don't have an upsell yet to put in there. We do have that tripwire product, which is the product that most people watch and they're like, oh, I want to do this. Like, so it's a very, very good entry point. Now, if they go into the step one, which is our low ticket membership, they have a pathway with all of our core one stuff, like all the courses. And this is the first step of the whole step one is this course that we have as the tripwire.
Okay. And if someone opts in, does that lead to the high ticket or the low ticket? To the tripwire? Which one does it promote?
If they buy the
Tripwire.
Workshop, high ticket.
High ticket. Okay. So we're still aligned with the conversation we're having with them up until the time where the cohort deadline passes, and then we are talking about something else.
Now, I do weekly emails too that are these type of level 10, client emails that I have, like just from 2 emails alone, writing this type of content. I do have very good warm applicants who apply when I send out these very high level emails that are speaking to those high level challenges. If I have an email that's more of a beginner email, I do a CTA to the lower ticket. But what's interesting about the low ticket is it's actually kind of halfway attracting the people in the intuitive space, because it's an in-depth energy forecast is in there and tools to implement the forecast. So it's not just, the start of the transformational breakthrough process. It's there if people want to take action and implement and, make better aligned choices. But a large majority of this low ticket membership does fulfill the broader audience's need for wanting more of in-depth energy stuff and impromptu channeled messages that I do throughout the month. So it gives all those flashy things that people want, but it also is the start of, the action-based process of the transformation if people want to decide to up-level their life in that way. So, yeah. So it could appeal to people who just want to have a subscription to get the in-depth PDF guide that I write out for the forecast, because they only get a part of it in the free. And then I do impromptu for, channel drops throughout the month audio-wise. And then they have the soul pathway system. They have the first steps of that if they want to get into that. So the membership isn't just aligned to step one of the high ticket. It's also aligned to bringing those people in from the forecast that want more of the forecast stuff as well.
I think I understand that. I think the biggest thing with these multiple offers is just being really crystal clear which offer is for which person. Because I think that's where, if you've got multiple ways that people can engage with you and multiple containers or multiple offers, if people are unclear about which one makes the most sense for them, like you've got that one personality that's just, I need all the access, I need one-on-one support, that's how I'm going to get help. And they just go there and they don't even look at the DIY stuff, right? And then there's other people who are more hesitant, or they don't have a relationship with you yet or a connection with you. And so Like, well, maybe I just need to start here. And for some people, it's let me start with the free stuff. And for some people, it's like, well, it's $11. Let me just start there and see. But when things are confusing and it's unclear, they almost don't do anything sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it's just like they freeze and they don't know. It's just unclear. So I think that's one of the biggest things I would say in terms of offer sequencing and offer value communication is just being really crystal clear who it's for, what it does for them, and it's got to be distinctive from one another. So I think that copy is going to be probably the most important to get people to self-select and understand what bucket they need to be in.
And then high ticket obviously gets free access to the low ticket membership with all those extra perks too.
Okay. And that's like, if, that's part of it where you'd say this is an all access pass, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what people who care about that stuff, right? That's going to be people who are like, yeah, actually, I don't even have to decide then. Great. Just I'll pay and get all. That's great. To me, that's what I would focus on optimizing first, so that it makes it a lot easier to then talk about the offers in the email sequence, where I think you're right. Right now, the email sequence sends people to a lot of different places, and I could see how that might create just some confusion on the consumer part or on the ideal prospects part. But if we can be really crystal clear and maybe just give them, if we've already made the decision that high ticket is where we want to send all of these people, we have a deadline, which I think creates that urgency where we onboard and we start every month. And then maybe during that first week or that last week of the month, they haven't applied, right? And we can start shifting the conversation to something else. That to me feels, because especially if it's their first month in with you, I feel like that's the sequence they should get. It's like, high ticket, this is our program. It's they didn't take me up on that. Well, I have this other one. Or they might choose, like, oh, okay, that sounds good, but maybe I need to wait till next month. Or, I'm busy, I'm traveling this month, I've got spring break. I know I'm going to be out of pocket, so I'm not going to be able to make any calls, or this happens a lot over the holidays and things like that. So sometimes over the summer with busy moms, when kids are out of school, they know they're not going to be able to sit for phone calls or whatever that is for them. They might just say, I know I'm going to, in their minds, they pick a start date and you're like, I'm going to start this on, August 1st, or I'm going to start this on April 1st. And then they make that decision. Even if we start talking about other things, it doesn't mean that they won't come back and apply the next month. It's just now creating more awareness about other ways that they can work with you and allowing them to know this feels like actually the better option for me, or no, I missed the deadline, but the one-on-one is actually where I need to be. So I just know now I need to wait a couple of weeks and then I'll make sure I get my application in and go. So I do think distinguishing the offers is going to be the best thing that you can optimize in order to increase your conversions there.
Question about the deadlines. What if somebody is like, they opt in and it's like the end, they have one day before the end of the month, or like, what if they opt in and then I'm thinking you mean like if somebody clicks on the link for application, deadline funnel activates and they have a 5-day window. Is that what you mean? Or like, because if people join when they opt in, I'm confused as if they opt in the last 2 days of the month, then they don't really get that full.
What do you do now? Because do you have deadline funnel set evergreen, or is it actually at the end of the month?
Yeah. So we have, if somebody applies and is accepted, they have 5 days to watch the training, and then we DM them and do social selling. But like usually I tell people I'd like to get you onboarded the last week of the month. Like it takes us a while to, talk to them. We usually don't like to have them come in like when everything's going on in the middle of the month. So we like to onboard them the last week and have them start the first.
Okay. So the deadline actually isn't on the application?
No.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking the deadline's on the application. So like get your application in to apply, but you're putting a deadline between the application and
watching the video.
But so watching the video is a requirement to get into the high ticket?
No, it's just that if they get accepted into the program. So when they click on the link, they go to the application page for the free training, and then they could apply for the program right on that page. So they just get the free training, like right as they're accepted. It's for accepted applicants. So then the deadline funnel is evergreen at that point, and they have 5 days to watch the training. But some people, they don't have to watch the training. we DM them right away and talk to them about the program.
Okay.
But if they want the training, they have 5 days to watch it. They have 5 days.
Or the
access.
training moves into the program or something? Is that?
No, it just expires.
Oh, okay.
We don't do any sales calls anymore. And this webinar, this training does all the heavy lifting for us. This is what the program is about. This is the framework. Yeah. This is how it works. This is what's included.
Do you have an audio version of this video?
No.
That's like one way. Like one thing I'm already thinking is, and I don't know how much perfectly it translates, but here's someone already listening. Now they have to watch something. I've seen Lizzie Goddard add on a webinar page right below it. It's like, you can watch this like repeat right here. Mm-hmm. But if you also just want the private podcast version, here it is. So hopefully that increases conversion of people consuming that piece of content. It is the same medium, which I do think might help somebody who's listening to audio and was like, this is the first lead magnet I've actually finished. And then you get to this page and it's like, you could totally watch this video right now. You could also just like upload it really quickly into your private podcast player. Same thing. You could also still expire it. It's just a button that lives right under that video, which I know typically also is like join the program is right.
Yeah. So you're saying the private training would also be an like broken up into audio private training?
You don't have to. Yes. You don't have to break it up. We've seen people not make multiple episodes of trainings and people still listen. People listen to 3-hour podcasts like regularly in the world, right? Yeah. Okay. So I would just say want the audio version of this because the person to make the connection to the lead magnet that you've created, that person already knows you're in their inbox in their private podcast players or their podcast players. So that to me seems like an easy addition. Right. And I don't think you have to overcomplicate it with extra episodes. And I do think that actually the episode loading, Nora, like right in the same feed would be like continuing the conversation. Then they learn about the program and you can see who's listened to it. So this adds to your DMing conversation like piece of it. I think we could add that tweak to this setup potentially.
So they would have to apply to get this either way, right?
I hear you say yes. I don't want to dismantle the whole funnel. I want to do that as little as possible.
It's all automated and Airtable.
It's all automated. You have it. You have it, and it's working. So we're trying to connect that front lead magnet that draws them to this application in an evergreen style. Right? That's like the goal.
And if they're listening to the audios and they're resonating with the audio,
they want to apply.
And having this training as an audio, although there are a lot of visual components to it that I think are important, but it's not necessary. Mm-hmm. But if I can break that up into like, here's the framework that I use to help you do this.
Yes.
And then if they want to listen to the elements of what the program has, that's another audio. And then the investment is another audio. But I don't know. I'm just thinking I think that's a great idea. I'm just not sure how to do that. But do we ever offer them step one of the process as a low ticket in the sequence ever? Or is it always just high ticket and then they go into newsletter?
That's something you have to test, right? Mm. I mean, I personally think you don't offer, you show them the options and show all your cards up front and let them choose and make sure you're really crystal clear, or you push high ticket, they don't take it. And then you talk about the next option, which is like more the downsell, like core offer downsell approach, but you get to decide what that looks like. I think sometimes to me, if the offers aren't crystal clear and it looks like I can get the same benefits from both, that's going to really not be that's not great, right? So we've got to fix that. But I do think, if your profitability and where you want to put people is high ticket, you lead with high ticket, they don't take it, then you also start introducing low ticket and then maybe maybe that's only a couple of emails and then you put them right into your newsletter. So there's definitely a way to do it. And then in your newsletter, I'm sure you're talking about those things or you're reiterating those options here and there based on what's kind of coming up. That's probably what I would do. I think where we were getting stuck too is like the event people are getting like a discount for the retreat or like that. And I think when you start to be like, wait, I don't know which one to pick, that's when they'll do nothing. And so I think that's what we're trying to alleviate. So if we just start talking about high ticket, that's the thing, this is the program you want, and then see what happens. And if they don't bite, then we introduce low ticket and then right into the newsletter. I think by doing that, I think you can maximize your high ticket. I do think that sometimes, what is high ticket to you? What is it? What is the price tag on this?
$7,800.
Okay.
for the year. But it's like if they watch the webinar and they get it within that deadline, this is that whole person's process, they get like a pay in full at $6,500. So they get a very good bonus by like making a decision in a certain window of time.
Yeah. And I will say this, like right now, I'm finding that buyer life cycles are just longer. As we see the economy, as we see cost of living, as we see other things. So like it might be that people can't make a decision in that time frame. Some people won't be able to, and that's okay. I think there'll be questions if they can do it next time or something like that. I think that's fine. We might also find that people are already ready to go. And because people show up in our worlds that are like ready and they don't need a bunch of stuff because they've already like all that pre-thinking has happened before they even met you. And so, that's a reality as well. So I would say if it were me, if high ticket is my main conversion goal, I would focus on that in the emails, see if they bite. If they don't, then introduce low ticket and then put them into the nurture sequence where we're still engaging with them. They still know their options and we can kind of go from there. I think that feels a lot cleaner and simple to me than trying to give them everything at once and potentially confusing them.
So just a quick question about bridging that at the end of 7 emails about high ticket. Do we just talk about how this is just the first step of that process if they want to dip their toes in, or like how do you frame that as a downsell or just another product that we offer?
You could frame it as an easy way to get started because maybe they felt like they weren't ready to get for high tickets. So I think that's one angle you could take for sure. You could be story based. It could be, how someone else, wasn't maybe ready to take the plunge or they were looking for an easy way to get started and they did this and then they were ultimately became a client or joined that program later. So you can kind of future pace that. That's something you could do. But I do think it's like the easy way to get started feels like the right approach here.
I like what Lindsay was saying about having a webinar as audio because they're listening to the podcast. They're liking it. They're going through it and having that be available to be unlocked. How is that done? How do you
technically?
Yeah. Like how are you envisioning that happens within that? Because it's a public feed right now. It's not private. Yeah.
What's public? The opt-in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would switch that to private for the exact reason that we're talking about, especially because you're doing your sales via DMs. Because if the person is listening and they might not even need the video. And this was, I don't know if you listened to a recent LYPPS episode, but I'm thinking about Colleen. It's like literally the same price point. She's going to be a reference. I told her when we were recording that podcast, it was going to be. She does this too, where she has a private podcast. Her program is $7,800. She does not have a webinar or anything. It's just the private podcast. People just sign up from the private podcast. Some people do a sales call. So your sales call is not a sales call. And they listen to literally the same content, whether they're picking a private, whatever, but like you now have access and you have that person's email and you know exactly how far they've gone. So that just opens up another door for you or someone on your team to open a conversation with somebody. And I think that is interesting. If they didn't raise their hand and say apply, what do you do with somebody that has a really high super listener score, right? Like they went through, they enjoyed it. I mean, it could even just be research based, like, why didn't you apply? But if you're making it open in a public podcast, you don't have that ability to collect that information.
Right.
I know we talked about this because you said that they opt in to get it, but you make it accessible to them. This is what we talked about. So I just want to say, like, by flipping it to private, this is giving you things that you can do in your sales process that could have a positive effect. Like you don't need to change that right now because you're still collecting email addresses and that's good, but we're now not opening that door. And I don't think we knew obviously what was on the other side of it, what you were like selling them to. Because it's not private, now we're getting into this unlocking thing. Because it's not private, you would not be able to put an episode in that feed. Doesn't mean you can't have them resubscribe to a new thing. That's this new thing that they opted into and they, now have to sign up again. But that's different because they didn't experience that the first time with the first podcast because it was just available. So now they've never experienced a private podcast from Hello Audio. We could position this in a certain way, Nora, where we could say you just unlock this exclusive thing, like whatever, because now that sign up process looks different. I give you my email address and I get an email and I have to click a button to put it in my podcast player. And so I'm just pointing out that now they're going to have these two different experiences with audio versus if you did that on the front end, they would know exactly what's happening. Or what I was going to say, which is because I thought it was a private podcast, the episode just shows up in their player. We're doing that right now with our lead magnet. If someone buys our upsell, the episodes show up in their player in the same feed. There's no reason that they need to go to a new place. And then you continue the conversation. Then you could add an episode with drop a case study. Then you could drop, whatever. Then you could drop the this is your last call. And then you could drop an offer to the next, hey, maybe it wasn't ready for you. Here's the membership, right? So you can do that kind of stuff with a public podcast.
Right. So how do you unlock it? Is it through Zapier? How do you...
Tagging. We use tags in Hello Audio. You can tag somebody if they've opted into a certain thing or they're tagged in your email list a certain way.
So you have to do it manually?
No, a Zapier does it. So that's what does it for us, Nora, right? Our funnel literally is live right now. So someone buys our $7 upsell off the free thing. And they then get tagged in our email system that they bought the upsell. And then we pass that information on to Hello Audio. And then Hello Audio says, great, unlock those episodes. And they show up in that person's feed.
Okay. That all sounds amazing. I'm trying to conceptualize how I obviously can't change it for tomorrow's event.
No. And yes, this is let's envision what it could be. And then let's look with what we have. And I think what we have right now is you could easily add a button under the video that has the audio version.
Yeah, I could see the person that just joined our high ticket, she would have loved, because she was loving the audio. She's very busy. And she went through the 3-part audio series. So then if she applied and was able to unlock it and listen to the webinar. And then, you're saying, I like the sequencing of what you're talking about of, listening to that.
Episodes there. They can either all be waiting for them or you can drop them. Yeah.
Because we have video testimonials. We can change them to audio. So, and that's how it actually sold her, was the video testimonial. But we could have put that in the audio and it had the same effect. And then if people were like, oh, well, you're not ready. But then I envision that as dripped and timed over just here's 10 things to listen to join the program.
You could drip it. She would say from the day this episode dropped, the next episode drops 2 days later. Yeah.
Yeah. The application would actually be the trigger. So that's actually how the opt-in is actually the application.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, Nora. They're auto-given the private podcast feed and the option is to watch the video.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Rather than being watch this video, it's listen to the podcast series because they're already listening, right? So the person who's coming in and clicking on this page is already listening. And then you when they opt in to watch the video or listen to the training series because they've applied, they're already in. So that's when they get the email from Hello Audio. Is that what you're saying, Nora? Because that triggers it?
Yeah.
They're not clicking a button that says, give me the private podcast feed.
Right. Because they already have it.
They already have
give them both options. They can watch the video. That's fine. But they also, if you'd rather listen, you were just sent a
boom.
A link.
That's what you say in the video. If you'd rather listen, you were just sent the link to sign up for it. Because it's not a private podcast on the front end. That's why we're making that part. Just so you know, because if it was a private podcast on the front end, you would just tell them it's already waiting for them in their player.
Well, I could change it over, right? To a private?
Yes.
Yes.
You can change it
in
over.
The future.
In the future. It's just whatever you have set up, whatever your automation is now where they have to opt in and then you give them that opt-in just needs to be changed to a Hello Audio delivery, not whatever you have set up.
Yeah, we have a lot of automation set up with it right now. If I had the Powerhouse plan, which I don't yet, but if I did, then I could make it its own, the training its own podcast, private podcast.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. It is probably the best move based on how you have it set up right now, is to make a separate one that is for this training and definitely make it private so you know who's watched and how much. Yeah. I'm trying to crystallize for you, especially from a timeline thing. My brain always is, oh, it's not that hard, but like there's stuff that has to happen. They opt in and you say especially because they already have it in their player, you would say the exclusive audio series is in your inbox right now, or you could watch it on this page. And so it's just probably text somewhere on the application.
My intuition is telling me that I like having the opt-in and having it ready to go in the same player, right in the same.
Yeah. No,
and so I might have to change. Yeah. I think that all of these things are wonderful ideas. I think I have a lot to think about.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. I hope that we gave you something that you can use to optimize this funnel in the future. And to answer the question that you came with, which is this private podcast series I created, how does it lead to the next thing? I think that's going to be a big piece. Now that we truly understand how your selling mechanism, that's how private podcasts can be added to it. And like, I think, your events tomorrow, this is just going to be your reference point where you're going to be like, this is it when the funnel was set up, like, this is what it looked like. And hopefully we see like a big uptick in conversions or people coming back and saying like, I'm so glad you had the audio version of this masterclass. Hopefully the watch rate goes up or whatever for you. Like that would be our hope by adding the private podcast to this type of funnel.
What I will do before the event is I'll put a fourth audio in there just talking about that they can apply because I don't have
100%.
So, yeah, I can do that.
Yes.
That's easy. Good.
Man, you guys, we went on a wild goose chase.
We did, but like we got it. We reined it in. We now got the big picture. You have a lot going on right now.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I need to simplify.
You'll get there.
But you're right, Nora. I mean, the way I'm getting people to join is by being like, you have to come get onboarded before the first of the month. You're absolutely right. But Lindsay, what she's seeing is that when somebody puts in an application, I press a button and accept them based on what I see. Right. Everything runs.
Yep. And that can still be the case.
Yeah. It's took us a year to do it. Yes. And it works. And it's so much better than what I was doing before.
Yes. But we've already identified at least a handful of things that you can do immediately. And I think that's really positive. And there's a lot of benefit in what was built.
The program that I have is so hard to explain and so hard to sell. That this webinar is seriously so good.
If it's doing so
it, good.
It's huge. Yeah.
It allows me to just answer the questions that people have about their concerns and their fears. And I don't have to explain why I do what I do or how I do what I do.
That's the info session magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good. Like it's really good. It's just what you're saying, the 2 deadlines. I mean, there has to be some smoothing out.
Yep. That's
where I get overwhelmed in all of that. Like trying to figure out what to smooth out first and what to smooth out second. And
and you follow the numbers. So that's always my recommendation. So right now we've got to focus on the marketing side so we get more eyeballs in it. And then if we start to see that conversions, if we, people apply and they're not watching the video or they're not doing the next step and that starts to dip, then that part needs to get smoothed out. But I think right now, if that part seems to be working well, then we just focus on more people. And so it's the marketing side that we focus on first. So this is a lot of information that you'll have to digest and sit with. Do the few technical things that you can. I think they will help. Do those tiny things. And then on the back end of the event, just look at your numbers, let them be a data point. And then I would say you'll have some things to follow up on. And we're always, I feel like we're always here. So whether you're pinging us, right, in support, if you run into tech issues or following up on coaching calls, or just sending an email to support to say like, hey, can you let Lindsay and Nora know this? That's okay too. Whatever is going to be the easiest for you is great because we're trying to monitor all the things, but don't feel like you have to wait for a coaching call.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I can, I have a lot on my mind today, just packing and everything. So
you've got a lot going on.
I have a lot going on.
You got to get some self-care in there too.
I appreciate it though. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity and for having me. I really enjoyed it. So
definitely. And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.